the back panel. Oh my gosh, I just choked myself with a needle. Hello and welcome back to True Summer Knits. This is my knitting podcast where I kind of buried the lead there, but it's where I talk about knitting. So thank you for joining me on this wonderful Friday afternoon. Today I don't have any finished objects to talk about, but I do have a couple of works in progress, one of which is mostly done, and it's another one of my own designs. And then the other one is a pattern that I've made good progress on. It's a sweater pattern, and I'll talk more about that. And then I've got a couple of plans that I want to share because I bought the yarn for them already, and they will be here soon. So let's get started. Okay, so the first project I want to talk about is going to be a little difficult to show because it's worked bottom up, but I'm going to try to show you this in the best way I can. Let's see. So it's currently separated for the front and the back panel, but you can kind of get the gist of it here. It might look like a slip over, but the goal is for it to be kind of like a sleeveless sweater. And I'll show you like the Reformation design that kind of inspired me. I saw this sleeveless sweater top on Reformation and I was like, I want that, and I want it in my cashmere yarn. So I'm calling this the autumnal top right now. I'm just gonna kind of hold it here for a second so you can see it. So it's knitted from the bottom up. You start with this twisted rib at the bottom. The tension never really looks good in this yarn until it's blocked. The yarn is Cardiff Cashmere Classic. I've got a caked up ball that I can show you. And the color, let's see if I can change the light to like properly show you this color. Oh no. I just don't think I'm gonna be able to properly show you the color. I guess this is a little more accurate. It's brighter in real life. This is Muji by Cardiff Cashmere. It's a almost like purpley pink. It's a very muted pink, and I just don't think this lighting is doing it justice. It's really pretty and it looks really good on me, but I am using it to knit this top. So like I said, you start with the twisted rib. It is half twisted rib. If I could go back and start over, I probably would have done full twisted rib, because I only learned after the fact that full twisted rib is more elastic than half twisted rib. And I kind of did want it to have that sort of cinched in look at the bottom, which it doesn't really have. It kind of does when you're putting it on, but it's really hard to show because obviously you can't really try it on when it's bottom up. But I did it this way just because I felt like the construction made more sense to me. I wanted to have this round neck, and it's rolling, so it's really hard to tell, but I did some very slight increases at the corner of the shoulder, just so it would sort of flare out at the very tip of the shoulder. And then it's going to have a mock neck around it, I believe. I don't know if it's going to be a mock neck or longer. This is just going to depend on when I start knitting it and see what I like. And I would also like the mock neck to be in twisted rib, but again, I'm worried about the elasticity, so it's gonna have to be some experimenting. I think it'll be fine. I based this pattern, or I didn't really base any pattern off of this, but I learned a lot about how to draft and knit this pattern from this book I'm reading. I don't have a physical copy, I just have an ebook, but it's Knitting Pattern Essentials by Sally Melville. It is, if you want to design your own stuff or you want to learn more about how to construct garments like without a pattern, this is probably one of the best books I found on it. Now, the woman who wrote it, she does not believe in knitting stuff top down. She does not believe in knitting stuff in the round, but there are a lot of other good books you could use to supplement that knowledge. I mean, I did knit this in the round. It's kind of hard to tell, but I did knit this in the round, and then I just separated up at the top. This is the front panel, and it's gonna be like that, and then I've got the back panel on the needles, but the book has basically every different kind of sweater construction, like raglan, set and sleeve, drop shoulder. She talks about how to like make modifications for different kind of sleeves, like puff sleeves and things like that, sleeveless. I didn't actually need the sleeveless section of the book because I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of experience with camisoles, so I kind of just basically constructed this the way you construct a camisole. What I really needed the book for was to kind of break down the neckline shaping and the shoulder shaping. I actually hadn't even really planned to have any shoulder shaping. You see it's got kind of a slant to it, but she convinced me that you needed it, so I'm glad I did it. I probably wouldn't have thought to do it without it, and I think I probably would have ended up not liking it and frogging it and trying to figure out shoulder shaping on my own. So I am really glad I did that. I didn't do any short rows or anything in this. All the shaping is done with increases and bind-offs. I guess just that's what makes sense doing it bottom up. If I had done it top down, I probably would have had to take a much different approach to the construction. But it's very simple to do. I mean, it's just stockinette. Like I said, you cast on for the half-twisted rib. Let me see if I can just show you the bottom part. It's so hard to show you this when it's just on the needles and the back panels are on the needles and the front is kind of just loose. But if you can't tell, there's some very, very slight waist shaping. I didn't want it to be form-fitting, but I did kind of want it to sort of skim the body a little bit. And this also, it's not negative ease. On me, it's got 1 inch of positive ease. I kind of imagined the design having 0 to 2 inches of positive ease. So it's not close, it's close fitting, but it's not like tight to the body. It's just fitted, you know what I mean? I guess, I feel like I'm not describing that well, but it's just got a little bit of room around the bust, and then, but it's not baggy or anything, and then it just tapers in a little bit at the waist, so you can have a similar amount of ease at the waist as you do at the bust. And if you knit this, you could add more waist shaping, or you could do no waist shaping. It would just depend on what kind of fit you wanted. And then it's just gonna have these double knitted bands around the armholes just to kind of give it like a finished hem look. I had considered at first maybe just picking up all the stitches and knitting a bit of stockinette from the right side and then folding it over and sewing it down. But once I knitted it up, I think in my head, I thought maybe the shoulders would come out a little further. It's rolled, so it's hard for me to show you exactly where they come out. But I kind of imagined, it's hard to say. Let's see if I can just kind of like slip this over my head and show you where everything is sort of sitting without screwing up the back panel. Oh my gosh, I have to choke myself with a needle. Okay. Ooh. So, I mean, it's over a dress, but you'll see like it kind of supposed to end around your hips, and see it'd be a little less close fitting because you have to think about the fabric of my dress that's taking up space, but it's not really tight fitting. It just kind of sits on the body. You can see where it tapers in, and then it's gonna come up here. Oh wow, it looks really good now that I'm wearing it actually. And I wanted it to come out a little bit past the end of your shoulder. So instead of adding stockinette and folding it over, I think if I do like 1/2 inch of a double knitted band, it'll kind of just come right where I want. And it's got like a slightly deeper armhole depth. You hear my cats chasing each other. Just so that I didn't want it to be like super fitted around the armhole, especially since there is that little bit of positive ease. I kind of just want it to feel like very comfortable. Let me take this off, hold on. But yeah, I really like it. I want to talk a little bit more about this book because I feel like I've learned so much from reading it. I'm the kind of person where it's really hard for me to just get knowledge from just reading something. If it's applied, or if the knowledge is a skill. Like, I have read multiple books on knitting, And even though I've read about these different constructions and I've read about shaping, I feel like they kind of don't fully make sense to me until I do them. Like, I learned when I was doing my last design, I thought for a long time every day about how I was going to construct it, and it kind of just didn't make sense to me. And I was reading about it and I was like, I don't know where I'm supposed to put things. Like, it was really stressing me out. And then I finally just sat down and started, and once I started, it just made sense. Like, it clicked for me. I knew how to shape it. I knew where things needed to go. I knew what measurements I needed to use. And it was very similar for this, and that was part of the reason I wanted to do it bottom up. Like, it did help that the book that I was using as a reference knits things from the bottom up, but I do have other books that go from top down. So a big reason why I chose to do this bottom up was just more so I could start knitting and then have time to figure things out in my head as I was doing it. And I was kind of stressed, like, once I separated for the front and the back, I was like, am I gonna know how to shape this neckline? Like, I kind of vaguely understand how to do a round neck, but I don't actually know. And then I got there, I opened the book, and then I sat down, and like 15 minutes, I just written out the instructions for myself, and I knew exactly what to do. So I am really happy with this. I feel like this is gonna be really cute. I'm calling this the autumnal top because, especially in my weather, I talk all the time about how it's super hot here. An autumn top that's sleeveless but has like a thicker or like a warmer fabric, that can be worn like all autumn, all winter, and would be an item that I'd probably pick up more than a sweater, just because it's just very practical. Like, a lot of my items that I like to wear in the fall and winter are like knitted short sleeve or long sleeve close fitting tops, or sleeveless tops like this that can be worn under a coat or a cardigan. And I just felt like this would be like a staple in my wardrobe. The gauge of this is 26 stitches per 4 inches, and it's got 44 stitches per 4 inch, like, row wise. The Cardiff cashmere claims to be a DK weight yarn. I guess you could knit it at a DK weight yarn. If you've been watching my videos, you'll remember that I actually had cast on an April cardigan with this, and I actually knit a lot of it. I knit like all of the shoulders, I knit 2 full sleeves and a good amount of the body. I did unravel that. I just didn't like the way it looked, like the gauge done at 21 stitches with this yarn. I mean, I just feel like this is a very thin yarn. I really don't think this yarn should be knitted a DK gauge. So instead of knitting this with 4mm needles, I knit this with 3.25mm needles, and I still feel like I could go down a little bit because I feel like the tension isn't like the best, just because I feel like I would want to knit it on a smaller needle, but I feel like 3.25 is a good needle size for this. Like, I mean, it works a lot better than the 4mm needles. So when I eventually, hopefully, write this design into a pattern, if people are interested in it, then I would just say that this is a sport weight gauge. I do feel like one substitute you could do, I feel like you could easily meet gauge with like a light fingering weight and a mohair held together, and just knit it on like smaller needles. It would just be like a tighter gauge. And I feel like you probably could, just because of where the gauge is at. When it comes to the ribbing around the neck, you could just not use the mohair and just use the light fingering weight yarn. You might have to experiment. I mean, I feel like you could do it with just one strand, but if not, you might be able to just hold it double just for that one part. So that could be like a good option, because I kind of envision this, because I don't want it to be a summer top. So I imagine like a fuzzier wool or like a wool alpaca blend, but I like that sport weight, so it's more lightweight. I've been looking at a lot of different yarns that I feel like could be used as substitutes, and hopefully in my next podcast episode, when this is done, I can kind of come up with like a list of different yarns, so that, I mean, I know Cardiff cashmere is expensive and I'm just using it because I had it and like I felt inspired to knit this with that yarn, but if I release this as a pattern, I understand that that's not like a yarn everyone could buy, so I would want to come up with like different substitutes. But really, you would just need a sport weight yarn. I think that's what this Cardiff cashmere really is. and I think that is just what you would need to knit this top. But yeah, I'm almost done. I have knit the front panel. I just started knitting the back panel. The back panels worked pretty similarly to the front, so you just basically start binding off a few stitches to shape a very slight curve to the underarm, just to bring it in a little closer to the body. And then you knit a little bit until you reach the base of the neck. You bind off stitches for the base of the neck, and then you have two fronts, I guess, and you work one shoulder and you bind off more stitches to have that curve of the neckline. And then you knit up a little bit, and that's when you increase a few stitches to like get that little flare at the shoulders, and then you start binding off to shape the shoulders, and then do that to the other side and you're done. And then the back, the only difference is you're going to knit a little higher, just so the back neck is higher. It's going to have like a different like neck depth, but the shoulder shaping will be the same way. But yeah, I think this will be done soon. I think it'll be done maybe even this weekend. So I'm really excited to show you guys the finished object next time I see you guys. I talked a really long time about this item and about that book, so hopefully that was interesting, and hopefully you guys like this, because I feel like I'm going to be more proud of this one than I am of my basic boat neck tank. Which, for a second, before I get into my next work in progress, just want to give you guys a little update on my basic boat neck tank test knit. Technically that wasn't even supposed to start until Sunday. I picked everybody. I had like over 50 people apply, which was super cool. I did not expect like that kind of reaction to my design, and it makes me feel so good and so happy. I cannot wait to like put this out there. It is going to be a free pattern. If you didn't already know that, it's going to be a free written pattern, and that's what's being test knit. I've got test knitters from extra small to 3XL. I have graded it for 4 and 5XL, but I wasn't able to find testers for it. So you tell me. I'm not sure if I should put those sizes in the pattern still and just say they're untested, or just not include them. Because I have graded them, but I couldn't find anybody to test them. So give me your thoughts on whether or not I should include those in the pattern anyway. But it's also going to be a YouTube video here where I show the entire process in depth. And that's actually what this yarn is for. It's purple knitting for olive cotton merino, and my petal drop top, which I have to frog. And I've got another like half ball of this. I don't even know if I'm going to need the frog yarn, but I don't want to keep the petal drop top. So it is beautiful, but it doesn't fit me well, and it's too see-through. So I have to start filming that, because obviously I have to knit the entire thing, or at least all the important steps on camera, so I can do a tutorial. But yeah, my test knit's going really well. I'll try to put up some pictures of my test knitters' works in progress. They are looking beautiful. Everyone, there's been no issues with like stitch counts or fit or anything so far. We like worked out some issues with like formatting and wording and stuff, and they've been so helpful, and I feel like I've made a pattern that I'm really proud of. So yeah, the test knit is technically supposed to end September 22nd. I've already got one test knitter who's like basically done almost. So if most people finish before that, then maybe I can release the pattern before that. I know that I'm releasing this like kind of summery top in the fall, but because it's like a more elegant boat neck fitted design, I feel like this is like the perfect like this is the perfect like autumn top to wear and like style with like blazers or cardigans as like a layering piece. I feel like you could like wear this with like jeans and like boots and like a coat like to the office, or like out for like a night, like a date night or a night out in the town in the fall. So yeah, I feel like it's not the worst thing that I'm releasing it in the fall, and it's not going to be a paid pattern. So I mean, it is what it is. I did think about maybe doing like a pay what you want on Ravelry, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think in the YouTube video, if someone does want to support me, I'm just going to put like maybe like a Ko-Fi link or something. I don't know. But yeah, so that should be out at the latest, the last week of September, if you're interested in knitting that top. And my cat is right here and he wants to say hi. Someone did comment that they wanted to meet my animals, so I think I will insert a clip at the end. Jackson's not loving this. He hates this and he wants to leave. But his name is Jackson. He's my little boy. He's the cutest and he's gone. I have two other cats. Cherish, she has one eye. We adopted her when she was 2. She is like the friendliest, coolest little street cat you've ever met in your life. And then I have little girl, who we've had the longest. That was my husband's cat before we even got together. And she is really sweet, but anxious. She just got off Prozac. So she really is, you know, making big moves. Unfortunately, I'm still on Prozac, so we can't all be winners, but it is what it is. And then of course I have Noelle, who you guys have met, and that's my dog. But now we're gonna move on from that stuff. So I'm gonna show you my other work in progress. If you can't tell, I've basically moved on from summer knits, even though we are currently in the hottest week we've had all summer. It's been at least 100 degrees every day. We've had heat indexes up to 116 degrees. And I was talking to Victoria from Blank Stitches. She's one of my friends on Instagram, and she's also one of my test knitters. And I was trying to convert like all the numbers to Celsius so they could make sense to her. She was like talking about how, like, she showed me like a screenshot of her weather app, and it was like in the upper 60s, lower 70s. And I was like, man, like that sounds like heaven. But I know that it doesn't get a lot of sun there and it's rainy, so I guess there's trade-offs. But yeah, the heat index was up to like 116 yesterday, and I think the Celsius equivalent of that is like 46 or 47 degrees. So yeah, it's been pretty miserable here. If you step outside, it's also so humid that you basically just feel damp as soon as you step outside. It's like you're wet and you're covered in sweat. So I basically just stay inside unless I'm taking my dog for a walk. So it's been pretty miserable, and I'm tired of summer. I've been knitting summer knits since March. Actually, pretty much all I've knit ever has been summer knits because I haven't really been knitting for that long. I have a lot of free time, so I put a lot of hours into knitting, but I only started knitting at the end of last year. So I really haven't, I've only knit like 3 like sweaters, and pretty much my entire knitting career I've just been knitting a lot of tank tops and stuff. So I'm really excited to just start getting my autumn and winter wardrobe ready. I don't care if it's a million degrees outside, but yeah. So that was just a little detour before I start telling you about my next work in progress. Before I actually show you, I keep doing so many interruptions. I will show you the yarn that I'm using because this is also an acquisition. I mentioned in the last episode that I was going to be getting this yarn, but it came in a couple days after oh, there's a dog out there. Whose dog is that? Oh, I gotta go rescue that dog. It's a little wiener dog. Hold on. Hi everybody. I know I look very different. Sorry about that. I saw this right, like where I sit in the film is right in front of this window in front of my house. And I saw this beautiful dachshund running around. And like I said, it's like 100 degrees outside. So I was like, I need to find her owner. So I ran out there and I ran around with her for like 15 minutes. I was hoping she'd lead me to her house. She didn't. She just wanted to explore. I found another neighbor and we gave her some water. I posted on the Ring app. I was freaking out. I was like, I can't take this dog into my house because my dog hates other dogs. And then finally I come back inside, try to figure out what to do. And I look outside and I see 2 women walking with a leash. And I run out and I'm like, are you guys looking for a dog? And they're like, yes. And I led them to the dog, and the dog is found. So now I'm just very hot and sweaty. So I look a little damp, and I'm sorry about that. But I'm just gonna try to figure out where I was. That was really eventful. It only took like 20 minutes, but man, that felt like a whole ordeal. I genuinely don't know exactly where I was, so I'm gonna start with the yarn because I don't think I'd shown the yarn yet. Oh, I know what I was gonna show you. So I will show you the yarn first. This is not really an accurate representation of the color. This is very cool toned. This is knitting for olive, limestone, the soft silk mohair, and the merino. My God, I look like I got hit by a bus. Hold on, I know I do not look as good as I looked at the beginning. Had to save a dog, okay? Can we just, it's okay. Anyway, so I bought this yarn. When actually it came in, I couldn't remember what I bought it for. Like, I knew I wanted to make like a winter sweater. I talked about this in my last episode. And in the last episode, I actually said that I wanted to make a Jenny jacket, or no, a Jenny sweater out of it. But when it came in, I knew that must not be what I bought the yarn for, because I didn't buy enough yarn. I bought 5 balls of each. And when that came in, I was like, this isn't enough yarn for a Jenny sweater. So I was like, I must have bought this thinking I was gonna knit something else with it. I could not figure out what it was. And then I thought I was gonna try to like design my own sweater. And I didn't come up with this, but I knit this little stitch pattern, which looks really good on camera. It kind of looks like little hearts. And I thought about doing it, but then like I said, I haven't knit a whole lot of sweaters. So I just felt like I wasn't ready to knit one from scratch. I kind of felt like I wanted to knit some from a pattern and learn more about sweater construction. So finally, I landed on the Cloud Blouse by Petite Knit, which is actually one I've been wanting to knit for a long time. This is kind of like the work in progress. It's hard to show. I've knit the back panel. You cast on for the back neck. Then you do a bunch of short rows. It's hard to tell because it's rolling, but it turns into this like trapezoid shape. So you've got like the slant of the shoulders here. You knit and stockinette for a while to do the back panel. And then you pick up stitches for the shoulder. And my pickup on this side looks kind of strange. I don't know, where I picked up stitches, it kind of looks a little holy. It's not the neatest. But I don't think it'll be that noticeable, and if it is, I will just thread a piece of yarn through there and just kind of tie them back together. But yeah, you do some short rows then to keep shaping the front slant of the shoulder. And then while you're doing that, you're also doing some increases here to like start shaping the neckline. And then you cast on stitches for the neckline. And then I'm supposed to work in stockinette for a while to shape the front yoke. And then I will connect under the arms and knit the body in the round. And then you'll pick up for the sleeves and knit the sleeves in the round. I've wanted to knit the Cloud Blouse since it came out. And my original plan, which I bought like a ball of yarn to test this out with, was I was gonna knit with 2 strands. I was gonna knit with a strand of silk mohair and a strand of lace weight, but not silk mohair. I had bought a skein of, or a hank, I guess, of Luminance lace by Knit Picks, and I've actually got it right here. I'll show it to you. I only bought one hank of it because it's kind of an expensive yarn and I just wanted to see if my theory would work. It's this lace weight mulberry silk. It is the softest yarn you've ever felt in your entire life, and I really want to make a garment out of this. Like, I feel like I could make some kind of, obviously I would need more than this. I think this is 50 grams. I feel like that sounds right, but it's literally like the most soft thing you've ever felt in your entire life. I thought about holding this with a strand of like almost white silk mohair to kind of get this like literal like cloud sky looking thing, and I liked it, but at the time I did that swatch it was too warm, and so I never ended up doing it. But now that I'm seeing this again, I'm really thinking about casting on something with that combo, or even just with the lace, maybe like held double, the silk held double. I wonder if I could do like, if I could get gauge with like the blouse number 1. I don't actually know what the gauge is. Or maybe if I could adjust it to get like a fingering weight gauge out of this. Or I could hold it with the silk mohair. I just feel like it's got that sheen to it and it's so soft. And with the silk mohair, I feel like it could make a really elegant combination. I got a little off track there, but that was my original plan for the Cloud Blouse back when it came out. and then it was very hot then, so I didn't even consider casting on a sweater, but now it's getting to the point where I just want to knit sweaters. So I ended up casting on the cloud blouse with this yarn. This is about how much of each ball I've used so far. The limestone is such a beautiful color. I've said this like in every episode, but this color was what I thought putty was going to be back when I bought putty for my square neck camisole. And it turned out they changed the way they dyed putty, and it was very yellowy, so I was disappointed. And then they discontinued putty, so you can't buy it anymore. And they basically said this color, limestone, is what putty used to be. But the gauge of this is 20 stitches per 4 inches and 31 stitches per 4 inches of rows. I don't know why I can't say that properly every time. And I did get gauge on 4mm needles. Actually, like when I measured it, sometimes I would get like 20, and then sometimes I'd get like right under 21, you know what I mean? But I did the math for both, and I figured either way I would get like something I was comfortable with, like size-wise. I'm knitting extra small. Technically, I feel like my measurements fit into the lower end of small, but like seeing the finished measurements, I just feel like that would be too big. It'd be over 6 inches of ease. And I think this is supposed to have 4 3/4 to 6 inches of positive ease, and 6 inches still sounds like too much to me. I feel like I prefer the fit on her, and it looks like she's got less positive ease on her in the sample. I plan on knitting it to pattern, except I don't think I'm going to do any of the rolled edges. I just don't like the look of rolled edges. I think I do like the little ribbing detail with the stockinette that follows it on the sleeves and the hem that she does. I'm thinking of just doing ribbing, like a little bit of stockinette, and then just doing like an I-cord. And if the I-cord still rolls, I can do the same technique that I did with my basic boat neck tank, where I just fold over the edges and pick up through the fabric to create like a more stable I-cord edge. As long as there's enough positive ease in the sleeves, I don't think it should be a problem like getting it on or anything. I mean, they're meant to be like slightly wider sleeves. So I'll experiment a little bit, but I don't think that'll be a problem. And with the neck, I think I'm also just gonna knit stockinette and then do an I-cord same way. It's a funnel neck, so it's like a wider neck. So again, I don't think it'll be a problem getting it over my head. But of course, I'm just gonna have to wait till I get to that point, test it out, see what works. But yeah, this is like the first real sweater of the season. Even though it's a million degrees outside, you can see me, I'm damp from walking outside for 20 minutes. But I'm really excited to have this in my wardrobe. This is only the second garment I've ever knitted in this yarn combination of knitting for all of merino and soft silk mohair. And this color looks really good on me. It's like kind of like an off-white grayish color. In some lighting, it's almost got like a greenish tint to it, and in other lightings, it's got like a bluish tint to it. And then sometimes it just looks like a pure white, but it's a really nice color, and I think this is going to be a really nice neutral for me. And I'm enjoying working with this yarn combination, which is good, because I have another project that I'm going to be knitting with this yarn combination. So I mentioned that I've got 2 projects planned that I'm going to talk about in this episode, only because I've already bought the yarn for them, and I think one of them is coming in this weekend, and another one will be coming in sometime next week. Next week, I'm actually going to be doing my fall plans video, where I'm going to be talking like about a lot more projects I plan on doing. But this one, I'm only talking about because they are for sure happening. I bought the yarn. So the first one I mentioned was going to be the same combo of the knitting for all of merino and soft silk mohair, but it's not going to be for me. It's actually going to be for my husband. If you remember, I was planning on designing a sweater for him, and then just with the other stuff I've gotten going on, I don't think I can do that right now. And again, I feel like I want to learn more about sweater construction. So he loves mohair. He loves the fabric that it creates. Like he really loves to feel all the mohair, like stuff that I've made, because I've made a couple of other mohair things. And so I knew that'd be a really good combination for him. So I bought 7 balls of each, which he's a really skinny guy. Like, we could probably share a lot of sweaters, but I still bought around that because I looked at like other comparable things, and I think that'd be like a good amount to be safe, you know what I mean? And I bought them in the color trench coat, which He is a soft autumn and he really likes his browns, but as always, I really struggle figuring out what colors knitting for olive is actually going to be. So we spent a while going through project pages on Ravelry, and I showed him a bunch of different ones, and we settled on trench coat, but I'm still not 100% confident what color it's actually going to look like. But I think no matter what, it'll be a color that he likes. So there's 3 things that I might make with this, because originally the plan was a cable sweater, and I still would like to do a cable sweater, but I have to swatch because I don't know if the cables are going to look that great with the mohair. Like, I don't mind, they don't have to be like super defined, obviously they're not going to be, but if they get lost in the mix of like the color and the mohair, then I'm just not going to do the cables. So I have like a stockinette pattern as like a backup, and he'll love that. I mean, he just wants a sweater made by me. He's not like super picky, but I just want to make sure it's like the best thing that I can make for him. So the 3 patterns that I'm considering, 2 of them are very similar, like almost like the exact same, except one of them is technically a unisex pattern, and that is the front porch sweater by Kevin Haggerty. And I don't know, it looks very like a feminine fit to me. I've seen a couple people in the project pages who've made it for a man, but they didn't say whether or not they made like any modifications. But in the photos, I'm like, that looks a lot like, it looks like a very feminine like shaped sweater. So I'd be worried that like I'd have to take a lot of measurements or like make a lot of modifications to that. So I found another pattern that's like basically the same thing, but it's made for like men, like graded to fit a man, and the smallest size looks like it would fit him. So I'm thinking more about this sweater if I like the swatch, and that is the Rhino jumper by ordemann. They're both like this ribbed cable design with like these twisted cables, and they're like more fitted, and I really like this design. So even if I can't get the yarn to look good with this swatch this time, like I know I'm gonna knit this sweater for him eventually. A long time ago, I bought some drops Lima in a brown color to knit a sweater for him, but this was near the beginning of my knitting career, and I remember I tried knitting it, and it was like a raglan pattern, and I could not like figure out how to do it. Like I just kept screwing it up. Now I can knit that just fine, but at the time I was like, I'm not doing this anymore, so it got put to the side. But the 3rd pattern that's my backup if the cables don't look good is actually the sweater that I tried knitting all that time ago for him, but gave up because it was too hard. The hanstholme sweater by Petite. It's just a simple stockinette sweater. It's like fitted. He picked it out at the time. He loved the design. He likes, like, I know it'll look good on him. And the gauge matches, like, the knitting for olive yarns. So if the cables don't work out, he's gonna get the hanstholme sweater. And that is a sweater I know I could knit fast. Like, I could knit that in like a couple of weeks. I don't know how long the cable sweater would take me. If I dedicate a lot of time to it, I don't think it'll take me that long. I'm used to working like textured knits and stuff. It's actually so weird knitting stockinette now because I feel like they're flying by. Like I'm so used to like textured or lace that now that I'm knitting just stockinette stuff, I feel like, I'm like, man, I just feel like I started this. And also not in like just fingering weights yarn, you know what I mean? Like working on a sport weight or like a DK weight, I just feel like they go by so fast, and it is absolutely insane. But yeah, those are my plans for my husband's anniversary sweater. Our anniversary is in October, so I want to have it done by then. But if I'm done with it early, he'll just get it early because he's going to see me working on it. It's not like it's a surprise or anything. But the other thing that I bought yarn for that is also going to be planned, I feel like there's been a lot of petite knit mentions in this video, but I'm just trying to build up some like basics in my wardrobe, and I feel like she really just does the best basics. So I think I bought 5 balls of drops brushed alpaca silk in the color Pacific Blue to make a cumulus blouse, the v-neck. I've always liked the cumulus blouse. I've always thought I would knit it in the brushed alpaca silk because it's yarn I really want to try, and it sounds like it's really soft. And I know some people knit that as like a spring knit, but that's like the perfect kind of like sweater for like the weather down here. So I'm excited to make that. I don't know when I'll get to it. I definitely want to finish my current works in progress and then knit River's sweater. And I also have to knit, like I said, the basic boat neck tank again on camera. So I'm going to be a little busy, but that definitely is something I'm going to be knitting as soon as I can, and I'm really excited to get that yarn in and use it. I bought the yarn from Wool Warehouse. I mentioned in one of my older episodes that I didn't want to buy drops because I was ordering it from Linda Hobby, and the shipping was like over $20. So it just made like the cheap price of the yarn like just not worth it. Someone was like, you know, you can just buy it off Wool Warehouse, and I think the shipping was like $5. So that is perfectly reasonable. And it said it should be here in 5 to 10 business days. But obviously I'm not in a rush, so it doesn't really matter to me when it gets here because we got so many other projects. But I think the Knitting for Olive yarn for River is going to be here tomorrow because it's already in Alabama. Usually when stuff gets to Alabama, it's here the next day. So I'm excited to see what color that is. I'll probably post it to my Instagram stories if anyone's curious. But yeah, those are my plans, those are my whips, and that is what's going on with me. I will be back next week with my autumn plans video, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks with my next podcast. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at TrueSummerKnits. And thank you for watching. Bye.